How can you politely and effectively tell people what are their shortcomings so that they can work on it rather than getting irritated and demotivated? Well, communication still rules the number one competencies for majority of the leaders and business managers when they are leading a team of people. And on top of it, person to person communication is the one which makes them more effective. Well friends, my name is Arun Thukral. I'm a life and a leadership coach, and today I'm going to talk to you about how to give and receive feedback. Feedback mechanism is one of the most important tool for every manager to be effective in getting their things done with people, also helping people to improvise and reinforce what are the good things that they are doing. But if you ask me, the moment a manager is asked to give feedback or take feedback, a lot of them get anxiety, nervousness, and stress because a majority of them do not know how to do it, how to take feedback or how to give feedback. They are very random in their approach, and that is one of the reasons that one, they are in stress. Two, the people who are getting feedback from them, they are not very happy and excited about it, and that leads to a lot of chaos. Well, today in this session, I'm going to talk to you in detail about how to give and receive feedback, which will really help you to be more effective in the role that you are right now playing. Not only it will help your people to improve their performance, but also it will help to get the best out of them and keeping them stay motivated. Once you understand the process, that what feedback is, what types of feedbacks are there, and what all you need to do to make it better and better as you go further, you will find this process is more simple and enjoyable as you go into it. So don't go anywhere, stay with me on this channel. You're going to learn something very important. So in this section, what we are going to do is we are going to learn what is feedback and some examples of ineffective feedback. So let's take three examples. The first example is when a regional manager submitted the monthly report to his business unit head, the business unit head did not respond for almost a month. And this regional manager was wondering what exactly is going on in the mind of his manager that he has got no response. Second example, a senior director was yelling at his secretary, highlighting that she doesn't even know English language. And he just speaks louder at her and bangs the door and leaves the office space. Third example, a manager in his annual appraisal telling the employee that you are doing a great job and you should do it more often. And the employee comes out feeling happy about the feedback the manager has given, but was not very sure of what exactly to work upon. Now, if you look at these three examples, you will realize that in all the three examples, there is a feedback which has happened. So what is feedback? In simple word, feedback simply means when you respond to the other person, you are giving feedback to that person. And the feedback can be in the form of when you respond to people, the way they react, the way they act things, or maybe a combination of all of it. Therefore, if we look at these three examples, which are the ineffective examples of feedback, in the first example, when the regional manager did not receive any feedback from his business unit head, it was a feedback in the form of silence. So silence is also a kind of feedback which is generally taken as negative. So this regional manager is completely confused and having a notion that probably his manager is not happy with the report. And that is where, as I said, that you cannot not communicate, which means even when you remain silent, you are communicating. In this second example, when the senior director is yelling at his secretary, he's seriously telling that she's not good in her English skills, due to which there are typing errors. But he is not pointing out what exactly the errors are and what are the things that she needs to improve upon. And that's a severe criticism in the form of feedback which has happened with the secretary. While when we look at the third example, we clearly see that the manager is appraising and giving a lot of praise to his employee. However, the employee is confused that what exactly he or she has to repeat and what she is really good at. Now, if you look at these three feedbacks which have gone to the other person, they are the completely ineffective form of feedbacks. And that's where a lot of time you see the employees remain confused, they remain demotivated, and they do not know what to work upon. Therefore, if we go into the feedback points, there are feedbacks are given in the form of verbal and non-verbal. Now, what happens in verbal? Verbal is straight as I'm talking to you, as you speak to the other person, or it is also in the form of written language that you write down the report or you write an email and respond to that. Whereas in terms of non-verbal, which is your body language, which are the gestures that you make that people understand that. But if we look very closely, a lot of time people look up to their manager that they are going to give them some constructive feedback so that they can work upon. So how do we give feedback at workplace? While at workplace, there are only two kinds of feedback that we give. Number one is called as job performance feedback, and number two is job behavior feedback. Now let me explain you what is job performance feedback. In job performance feedback, we generally look at the way an employee responds and perform basis the job responsibilities given to him or her. So basically these are job competencies. So for example, if you are how good you are in planning, how good you are in organizing, maybe it is event or some activity that you have to do. Now that is where you give a feedback to the person that how good or bad he is. The second is called as the job behavioral feedback. Now job behavior feedbacks are related to the way you work in the workplace. So for example, how polite you are with the customers, or could be that how collaboratively you work with your teammates, and that's where the feedback is given. Now from here I will tell you that the types of feedback that is given to the employees at the workplace. So generally at workplace, there are two kinds of feedback. One is called as redirectional and the second is called as reinforcement. As the word suggests, redirectional means you have to change the course of direction so that you can try something different and do better. And the second, as I said, is reinforcement, which simply suggests that you have to do the same thing more often so that you can build on your strengths. So let's remember those two examples that I gave in the beginning. In the first example, the boss is yelling at the secretary and the criticism is all about that how she can change the way she is doing currently so that she can reduce the typo errors. Whereas in the third example that we gave, where a manager has given a feedback to the employee that he or she is doing exceedingly well in a given role and she should do it more, which simply suggests that one has to create that reinforcement of the same behaviors that they can get better and better results. So in simple words, if I have to tell what is redirectional feedback, it simply means that those job behaviors and performance which do not contribute to employees' goal or organization goal, and that requires a change of strategy. And that is the feedback that requires a person to do better. The second is called as the reinforcement, and it simply involves those job behaviors and performance which an employee has to do very often so that they achieve the individual as the organizational goals. So if this gives you more clarity, you would now know that if you have to give some feedback to somebody at the workplace, how you have to differentiate between the performance plus the work behaviors, and thirdly, whether it is redirectional or whether it is reinforcement. So I hope by now you would have understood all about what is feedback, what types of feedback, what are ineffective feedbacks, and particularly how to give feedback in terms of redirectional or reinforcement. I hope you would have been able to connect a lot of things in your day-to-day work situations, that how it is happening right now with you. If some situation has happened similar with you, do share me in the feedback section. In the next part, I'm going to take you a little more deeper about redirectional and reinforcement feedback, what benefits it brings if you are able to use it correctly, effectively, and efficiently. So don't go anywhere. Wait for my next episode and learn more about how to give and receive feedback.